specialize in music most people hate. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you check out our Facebook page, Instagram, and our website. Let us share the noise with you.
Yo, this is John from Noise Dosage Media, and this episode is brought to you by Begrudgingly Benny. Interested in putting something horrific and grotesque on your next piece of merch? Benny is tucked away in the fiery depths of COVID quarantine, blasting the filthiest of old school death metal and drawing hideous creatures that he is waiting for you to adopt. Go over to Instagram and follow @BegrudginglyBenny and contact him if you would like some really weird original art for your band or label. Super professional, highly recommended. What's up? You know what time it is. Fucking John from Noise Dosage Media. We got some fellow friends in the local scene. We got Zach from Diluted here. You got a podcast, and I'm curious on how that actually developed.
Yeah. So I've always been really into podcasts, and I guess by always, I mean within the last like 3-4 years. I think I started, watching the Joe Rogan clips and shit, and then I kind of veered off. Yeah, he's, say what you will about it, him as an interviewer, a podcaster. He was on the forefront of this technology, so like I feel like there's a lot to be learned, somewhere in there. And then I kind of, I veered off into like comedy podcasts, like WTF with Mark Maron, and just like specific like comedian interviews. And then there's like, Theo Vaughn's podcast and Joey Coco Diaz's podcast, and yeah, so I was listening to those, and then I kind of settled into some like true crime stuff, and and I just kind of I wanted to, I saw how wide of like a spread of topics you could cover with a podcast. Like you can do fucking anything with a podcast. So I'm like, well, I mean, why not do one for the band, and we can just talk about shit we're up to, and have guests on, and we're always working on something, so just having that to update the people who really want to hear about it, I thought was a great idea.
No, the cool thing about it is like me, I don't like, none of the people I work with are a part of my podcast, but the thing is, like, just having outside connections makes it so much easier. And like, just imagine when shows start and shit, you're just better friends with people.
Oh yeah, I mean that's turned into the number one reason why we're doing it. Like, because no one really gives a shit what we're up to unless we put out something new. Like we don't have a shit ton of listeners, and it's growing, but we have a very small core fan base. And at this point, we're really doing it as an excuse to get people to come over and to hang out. And we always order a pizza, and we talk a bunch of shit before the podcast, and then we do the podcast. And, if they drink, we have a couple drinks. If they don't, we'll just, drink soda and eat pizza. And in the year that we've been doing it a little over a year. We have...
Damn, that's longer than me.
Yeah, not as much to show for it, but like we have a release show, an EP release show every year when we put out new music at the Bug Jar. And the difference between 2018's release show and 2019's release show, in terms of like other bands coming out to see us, which is, as a musician, that's your hardest sell. I feel like you can get people who aren't in bands to come see you, but dudes in bands, they're a little more hesitant to come out. It just like all these bands that we had on the podcast came out, and their friends came and they bought tickets, and it was just like, oh shit, these people, like, we're like friends with these people now. And it's just because we invited them. I sent them a Facebook message, and I'm like, yo, let's come be on our podcast, and you can like just talk for however long you want.
Now, the funny thing you said before about having a drink with friends, I'm thinking to myself, you had Tyler from Tides on, and try to give that man a beer. I dare you.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, we had the guys in Soma Slumber on, like Mike, their
Mike's
vocalist.
Cool to talk to.
He's straight edge dude, and like I feel like we're pretty likable guys. We've had some questionable members in the past, but at our core, we're some pretty likable guys, and we're easy to get along with. And
Right.
I feel like we've had all these different people from all, it's mostly the heavy scene, but we'd love to branch out into businesses and to, other genres and to venue owners and, people with recording studios, just, anyone really. We've had friends on in
Right.
the beginning, and it's just
Right.
cool sitting down and learning and, learning how other bands work is always cool.
Yeah, I've learned so much shit from like just it's like stuff that like you wouldn't find on the internet. Like,
oh yeah.
dude, I was talking to fucking the bass player of Mayhem the other day, swear to God, and he fucking tells me that he goes on bicycle rides for like meditation. That's how he keeps sane. And like I've been doing that recently. I'm like, fuck, dude, this guy's actually onto something. Like, I don't know.
Like it's the repetitive motion, like just doing any sort of like exercise or anything where there's like repetitive motion just kind of allows you to think freely and busies your body, and it kind of like tires your mind so you can't overthink
Right.
those little things, and you only have space for the shit that matters. So
dude, it sounded fucking like stupid to bring up, but it's like, dude, like these big fucking musicians, like they have like, I don't know, regular lives. They fucking do the same shit. Like,
yeah.
My thing is, the one thing I've learned about this podcast is like, once you break it down, like I used to get really nervous talking to people. Once you break it down and you figure out they're just a regular fucking person, like it's so much easier. Everything about the music industry is so much easier if you just like, I don't know, don't take it so seriously.
Yeah, or like put people up on pedestals and shit. Like, I mean,
Right.
it's definitely harder for you because we only deal with like local dudes, and it's still like, I'm not great at being social and like talking public
Me
speaking
neither,
and
dude.
stuff like
Same
that.
thing.
But like, I'm sure you've gotten a million times better at this point. Like, just
Right.
because the podcast is fun, and once you get to a certain point in the conversation, it tends to, if it's a good guest, it tends to just kind of happen and unfold, and there's like a magic in that, in the unscripted, and it just you learn how to have better conversations outside of the podcast too.
No,
Like,
that's the one thing I've learned. Like interviews, like regular interviews for jobs and stuff. Like I'm able to talk to an employer so much better. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, or just simple shit. Like having a good communication is something that you can't like train. You know what I mean? Like talking to different people.
Yeah, you just gotta you gotta grind it out. It's one of those skills. Like, and yeah, I mean, I know you've gotten better at it. I'm definitely feeling it too. Like, I'm not so nervous to just shoot someone a message and be like, yo, you want to be on our podcast? Because the worst thing that can happen is they don't respond, or they say no, and it's either way, it's cool. It's like, all right, man. Which is, it's happened. Usually though, overwhelmingly, 99% of people like want to make it work. And if they can't, it's just because they're, too busy.
Equipment. Yeah. For me, it's either the musician is like super like famous and like they don't want to be a part of anything, or they, I don't know, don't have the tech, like they don't have a computer or something stupid. Like,
yeah.
something dumb.
But yeah, it's a great form. I love listening to podcasts in the car. Just all the found time. I recently got into last podcast on the left. I don't know if you're familiar.
I have not heard of it. No.
It's like a comedy / true crime / like serial killer / paranormal. Like,
now, do you have to start it from the beginning and listen through, or can you just like start at any random episode?
You can start anywhere you want. There are some episodes that are like multiple parts, but like there's 3 guys, and it helps to they're all characters. Like, they all have character. Like, even though they're not playing characters and they're not acting, they all have this they have this rapport and they all fill this role. And I think when I started listening to that podcast, I really realized how important it is to have, in like a group setting in a podcast, how important it is to have like every guy fill some sort of role. If you're gonna have, you know, multiple dudes on it, or else it's just chaos. Like I've definitely...
dude, I was on one podcast and the issue was there was a bad connection, and there's three of us. There was three of us and me, and it was just super hard because it wasn't like fluent. And that's why, like, when people say, "Hey, can I have my full fucking band on?" I'm like, dude, I would rather not. Like,
yeah,
it's just like people are talking over each other and fucking.
Oh man, I hate it, dude. I get so pissed at my guy. Like on the podcast, sometimes like the first one we did after, you know, the whole COVID thing. I think we had perspectives on, and we had two of them and two of us, and usually that works out all right. Usually 4 people's the cap, and then we got a guitar player kind of doing the, you know, managing the recording and whatnot. But like we were just all so excited to be in a room with other people. We were all talking over each other, and I had to keep yelling at everyone. I'm like, "Stop fucking talking over each other. This sounds like shit."
Yeah,
like
dude.
You can hear it in the podcast that I get kind of like upset, but it, you know,
you just start crying in the background.
Yeah, it's like no one will want to. I don't want to listen to this right now. Like,
right.
But I feel
like
cool.
I feel like the hardest part about it, like, so if I do it, it's 10 times worse because I can't visually see the person.
Yeah,
you know
and
what
you can't
I mean?
give them those cues. Like I can just reach over and slap one of my dudes, like slap Patty on the thigh and be like, "Yo, man." Yeah. I don't do that, but that's
you just hear a fucking whack.
Yeah. I just straight up, because we have this kind of, the guys in the band on the podcast, we just talk shit to each other and like we're mean to each other, and that's our, you know, that's our kind of shtick.
It's a theme.
And then or maybe it's just me talking shit to everyone. I think that's just the character I've kind of. But then the guests, you know, I'm super nice and like, you know, I don't want to make them feel uncomfortable, and
right.
But yeah,
dude, this sounds mean, but the one thing I want to do by the end of this podcast is bring somebody on and like say the wrong name and the wrong band name.
Yeah. Just to see what happens.
Yeah, dude, it'd be so funny. But I don't know. So yeah. I was listening to your recent record, and I'm curious, what can you say about the recording, the production? Because I fucking love it. Like, give me some background info.
Yeah, so we recorded that at More Sound Studios in Syracuse with Justin Spalding. He was the producer and engineer. Okay. He's in a band called Terabyte, which is this kind of, they wear these creepy chrome masks, and they're like a combination of Immure and kind of like King 810, and they've got this really like rap centric thing with super heavy minimal parts and a lot of electronic shit going on.
Right.
But he's I think he's a drummer. I mean, he can play everything, and we went in with a lot of pre-production done. My guitar player, Matt, we record the podcast at his house usually. He's got his own little studio set up, and he's just been getting more and more equipment. So we spent a while rehearsing the songs at our practice space. Oh, fuck, sorry.
Right.
And then we did the pre-production, and it was like the first time we had ever really done that for any of our albums. And it really irons out a lot of issues. Like, there's no showing up at the studio and being like, "Oh, you've been playing that the entire time?"
You're like, "Oh, that's 63 BPM, not 65."
Yeah, what? Or you're playing the 5th fret there. I was playing the 4th, you know, because with like some dissonant shit, it you know, you don't always notice, but not everyone's playing the same thing.
Now, when you say pre-production, do you do Guitar Pro or do you do just regular recording?
Yeah, we use Reaper, and we just kind of, we have our drummer.
Oh, man.
Yeah. We have our drummer track his parts on an electric kit, we get the MIDI input, and Matt throws over some drum sounds. We get all the dudes to come in, record. Most of us can do it at home and just kind of send it to Matt. I live 5 minutes away from him, so I usually will just go over there. But
Right.
And so yeah, we do that. We ironed everything out. We figured out what we wanted to play, and we took it in the studio, and we would go in and we'd smash out a song and a half a day.
Damn.
So
Nice.
yeah, some of them were a little more involved than the others, but it took. Let's see. I think it took there's 5 songs. I think we did 6 days.
Right. The Cardi
staggered.
B one had me fucking going, man.
Yeah, that's a simple.
Everything about that song, like the song and then the fucking name just tops it off. It was making it fucking hilarious.
Yeah. We try to. I don't know. That's kind of our shtick these days is like stupid song titles.
Yeah, well, that's what people want. They don't like. It takes so much nowadays. Like it shouldn't, but it's just the power of how many bands come out of the fucking computer. They don't even have to be real bands, just like internet projects. Like it just, in my opinion, it's so much harder nowadays to grab somebody's attention.
Oh yeah, you got to either be pulling some, like your music's got to be at least all right, and you got to be pulling some crazy social media stunts or like viral marketing or something like that, or your music has to be batshit crazy.
Yeah, it just comes right out.
Yeah, and you have to have, a 50-50, like this is fucking terrible and this is the best thing I've ever heard, because that's what most, of those really crazy bands like. But like if you're just boring and you don't have any personality, like we're banking mostly on the brand and the personality and the kind of like taking shit less seriously, but still at the same time like trying to get better and taking shit seriously behind the scenes and kind of marketing it in a way that seems like we're just in it for the fun and partying and shit, but like a lot goes on behind the scenes, and there's a lot of organization, and
there's a lot of fucking dude. So I started a new project with Tyler from Tides, and this is the first time I've ever like actually sat down with a musician and said like, look it, dude, let's create a list of shit we want to accomplish. Like I've never done that before.
Yeah, but it's a powerful way to do it, man. Like,
because I feel like a lot of people, they just, I mean, the first band I was ever in, you just kind of go with the boat. You know what I mean? Yeah. Whatever the fucking waves are going, like, oh, promotional opportunity, let's take it. Like, hey, a show, fuck it, let's take it. But it's tough. You got to figure out which way.
Yeah, and like in every opportunity you take or don't take is a statement. And I've learned that too. Like, because Diluted's my first band, like the first band I was ever in. We've been doing it for like 6 years now. We've made a lot of mistakes, a lot of missteps. And it's kind of messy at this point. Like our history is kind of messy and spotted, and like we're all over the place. And and sometimes I feel like I wish I could just kind of take the band I have now, rebrand it with a different name, start off with all the shit that I learned in the beginning, and just start fresh.
That's
and
exactly what I'm fucking doing.
Yeah, exactly. But then I think of like, I don't know. I've also invested so much time and money into making this brand what it is, and I feel like that messiness and that history is a part of the brand too, and I'm kind of like coming to terms with that, and just Diluted is the band that just plays what they want, and you can't really pigeonhole us, and we're all over the place, and that's what I want this to be. So if I might start a new project someday separate from Diluted, but like everything you do, like you could take a show with a promoter who the scene's got beef with, or like a certain part of the scene has beef with, and then you're making a statement unbeknownst to like you, because you just want to play a fucking show, right? And then you could play at a venue that's that people
Not gonna
don't
pay ya.
approve of, or yeah, like it's just they're these little games, and it gets really tiring. And at this point, like I just want to have all of these people on the podcast, just every single one of them, because we've gotten shit for having certain people on the podcast,
Yep.
and then so
Dude,
we're like,
fuck
come on
that.
the podcast. So I have those people who gave me shit on the podcast, and we talk about it, and like it's just a great way to. They're like, I can't believe you had this person on. You gave him a platform. I'm like, okay, do you want a platform? Like, come out.
Yeah,
We'll give it to
dude.
you. We'll buy you pizza.
Dude, my thing is like I don't like cancel culture, whatever the fuck you call it.
Yeah.
Like there's reasons why people, get bashed, but to have like this black cloud following you, and like in the music industry itself, like I don't know, the local scene is tough, and if you make a move, then like this fucking cloud of bands just say fuck them. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh yeah. There's a diverging path at every choice, and it really shouldn't be that way, but it should really just be you take the opportunities you want, and as long as the guys in your band aren't fucking like pedophiles or murderers or like racists or you
right,
should be
right.
cool. But
yeah, but
it's
I'm
hard to
talking about
navigate.
just like fucking like just stupid shit, like stuff that happens at shows, and then you hear about it,
like pit beef or yeah,
yeah, just dumb shit like,
yeah.
oh
The
yo
weird
man,
clicks.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, yo, man, that guy fucking blew up my cab in 1957. Fuck that guy.
It's like, what are you doing here? Shouldn't you be in a retirement home?
And that's why I deleted Facebook.
Yeah, there you go, man.
But
It's toxic. There's some good shit that comes out of it, and I like when bands patch things up and do shit together, and I like having dudes on who we've had, because like I said, we've learned a lot. We've we were that band way back in the day who we were really insecure, and we would talk shit. I would talk shit about other bands because I felt really shitty about my band, and
right.
and it comes back around, dude. Like and you learn, and you're like, God damn it, why was I such a fucking asshole? Like, why did I talk shit? I have no room to talk shit. This band is way better than mine.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like it's not even worth it, because you're like, the second a local band acts like competition, it doesn't make it fun.
No, yeah, and it shouldn't be that way. But like it's hard because you put so much time into it. Like I get it, I totally get it. I get why you can get defensive and you want to act like you're better and you want to keep your arms crossed in the back while that band's playing, and like I've been there. But I look back at all of that, like, it's just so cringy. Like I cringe at the thought of how I used to act, and I just really hope to to get these bands on the podcast and kind of make amends, and like and just let everyone know that we really don't want to play this game anymore. We're different people than we used to be. And,
now now is Diluted. Did you get rid of that bass player or what?
Oh yeah, he found his way out.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I don't want to talk about too much shit, but
well, I'm gonna say one thing. I'm gonna just call him out right the fuck now, dude. So we played the EP show. I was filling in with fucking Tides.
Yep.
And he like got all fucking irate with me because I wanted to keep my fucking 2x12 on the side of the stage. I get it. It's a small stage. But dude, he blew a fucking gasket. I'm like, dude. I'm like, chill.
Yeah. But he's an intense guy, and he's hard to work with. I love the guy. He's hard to get along with. We butted heads a lot. Holy shit, man. We fought a whole bunch. But like that night we were like at an after party or something, and he's like telling the story. He's like, yeah, some kid from another band came up on the stage, and I told him to fuck off. To get the fuck off the stage. He left, but and I'm like, I'm just sitting there with my mouth agape. I'm like, you're joking, right? Like, you didn't say that to someone we invited out to play this show, right?
Dude,
He's like, no, I'm not joking. And in that instant, I sent a message to you, and I sent a message to Tyler, and I'm like,
dude,
I'm so fucking sorry.
dude, I was so fucking ready to haul off and smack him across the face. Dude, he pissed me off.
Oh, yeah.
What?
I'm sure.
dude, because the thing was, like, I had a small car, and I'm like, dude, there's like, you remember that show? You packed the fucking place.
Yeah, there's a lot of people, and there's no room, and you don't want to lose.
There's no room, and I'm like, how the fuck am I supposed to get this 2x12 through all these people? Like,
we could have just put it like, I could have just put it under my head or something on top of my 412. Like, if it had been on the other side of the stage where I was, I would have just been like, yeah, sure, let me just pop it under my head, and it'll just sit between my head and my 4x12.
That was
like,
that was a crazy fucking show, man.
Yeah,
all I gotta say.
It was a good time, dude. I'm sad that we won't have one this year.
Yeah. Dude, outdoor shows. We gotta make it. We gotta make it a thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's just that's a lot to plan, and people are still worried, and like I definitely don't want to. That's another thing. Like, playing shows now as a band, like, that's another one of those moves that's a statement, man. Like,
right.
I'm conflicted because our numbers are pretty good in New York, but they're good because we've been following these parameters, and I'm definitely on the fence. Like, I don't think anything's a hoax. I think it's serious, but right. I feel like there's a middle ground between taking it too seriously and being too lax about it. The middle ground is a hard position to take too, because it's really easy to slip into either extreme. So I get why people are hesitant to play shows, and we're definitely hesitant to play shows, especially if we gotta like hustle tickets and like play to people sitting in chairs, and like, fuck that, man.
I went to the Mohawk place because I do photography and shit, you know, and
which is great, by the way. I love your work, dude.
Thank you.
I've been creeping on it.
Hey, it's all right. I was so fucking hyped because I got this new camera, and I'm like, yo, man, shows are in town. And I go to the fucking Mohawk place, and like, there was minimal, like, I don't know, safety or whatever. And I was like, fuck it, I don't care. I really don't, because I'm the photographer and I'm away from the people, really.
Yeah.
If you think about it. And then I go to the Mohawk place, not the Mohawk place, the Montage, and they're super strict. And I was like, fuck, dude, this is like, I don't know. There's no middle ground.
Yeah, there really can't be, because people, like, people just take it to either extreme. Like, the Mohawk is one end of the extreme, and, certain places are more apt to get shut down, maybe. I don't know. It's confusing, dude, and I'm not going to hold it against a band that wants to play a show. Like, a lot of my friends, in bands are playing shows these days. I'm not going to come to them because, I'll watch the live stream. But
yeah, for me, it's just not enjoyable.
Oh, yeah. Like, I it's depressing. You get there and it's like, I get you guys want to play a show, but like, fuck, I don't want to play to people in chairs. Like, that's not what my like.
Dude, I'm straight
up
feel
like shit up there if people are
I'll
sitting
straight
down.
Up text a band and tell them I'm gonna come to your fucking rehearsal space. You know what I mean? Like, fuck, I don't want to. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that would be better.
Just do fucking basement shows to like 10 people, 15 people. Fuck
shit,
it,
man. I'd do it.
But
it's fun.
Yeah, social
fun
distance.
Stuff. Yeah.
But all right, I'm trying to think of another fucking question here. So, what would be like the biggest thing that you've learned about this podcast?
About ours or podcasts in general? Yeah. That like most of the dudes in the scene are just really normal and kind guys who like, you have this preconceived notion of people in other bands because, or I shouldn't speak for everyone. I always had this preconceived notion that like they were full of themselves, or like they were unapproachable, or just like probably ways I thought about myself, like things I thought about myself, and that I worried people thought about me, and I project them on other people, and then you start having them out, and you're like, fuck, I'm worried, like they might not like me, or they might be assholes, and this might not be any fun. But every single person we've had out to be on the podcast has been like awesome, and we've had a great time. And some of them are more fun than others just because of the conversation and familiarity with the person, but they've
Right.
all been like a positive experience, and we've learned something about another band's dynamic. We've learned, we've made connections. And even this one, man, like I don't know if I've never talked to you in person
Right.
like for an extended amount of time, and like I didn't know what to expect. I was nervous, like I hope he thinks I'm cool.
Yeah.
And like
Nah.
but like, yeah, it's been awesome, and it's been like super easy, and nothing's been hard, or it's it's you just you got to reach out to people and not be afraid that they're going to be a certain way, because you just have no idea. And most people, on a baseline are decent and cool and fun. And I think
Right.
that's what I've learned.
I feel like the biggest thing that I've learned myself is to not ask fucking like generic questions. Like,
Oh yeah.
hey man, that record you just dropped, the tone is fucking heavy. What did you use?
Used a 5150 with a tube screamer in front of
Yeah, it's like
everyone else.
It's like that's where the conversation stops.
Mm-hmm.
Bam.
Because not all those dudes give a shit about their gear either. Like a lot, and yeah, and it's just such a classic question. Or like, tell me about your band.
Inspiration.
Like, okay, what do you want to know about my band?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
that's such a wide, yeah, for sure. And just, learning how to, be quick with a joke, or like to, ask certain questions at a certain time, and to like learn the rhythm of the conversation, and
Yeah.
not speak over someone. All like really important things. And
Yep.
but yeah, the
There it
questions are
is.
important.